We've discussed a couple of months ago about the joy of owning Rolexes, but also the feeling of keeping money blocked into crown watches instead of exploring other brands. Ending up with the question, if I had to sell my Rolexes, where to? What's next? For me, ending up owning Rolexes, I explained, it was part of my maturity process and I consider I passed that phase. And since I sold them, I'm still seeking now to explore other gaps which were created while I was focusing on Rolexes. So no selling remorse, I'm still glad I sold the Submariner and Explorer 2, gathering a few bucks for other opportunities. I'm not sure how people behave when they receive a good amount of money as part of selling some wristwatches, if they consider to save them or to simply keep exploring. And because there is life after Rolex, you might not get the value retention desired with other brands unless you reach the Holy Trinity, but surely you can eliminate some curiosities or question marks by getting some popular gems into your collection. And it took quite a few months, maybe years, to convince myself to firmly buy a Grand Seiko. And I said, if it's going to be a Grand Seiko, let it be pink. When it comes to Grand Seiko, in watch collecting, things are sitting differently. You see, because it's an unstable brand price-wise, people or friends are always advising, hey, this is too expensive as retail, you will lose a lot of money. Try a pre-owned one just to satisfy your curiosity. I know someone who sells one for a good price. But you know, sometimes it's not about curiosities or what is offered to you, it's about what you really want. When you have friends and access to communities, you tend to buy what is available and not what you really want. Most of my friends are opportunistic collectors, so their joy of collecting relies on what is proposed to them. In this manner, collecting is fun because you have the chance to experience and educate yourself with other brands and quality levels for good prices. But it's still not what you really want. I'll give you a recent example. I bought in a trade a Glashütte Original CQ and then I traded with a money difference for a Chopard Alpine Eagle, another unplanned watch. But I'm not sure if I would have bought these watches as brand new with my own will. But through opportunities by saying, hey, I can try that, I ended up collecting and experiencing these watches. So I learned in time to guide myself and to eliminate other temptations, and in this manner I bought exactly what I really wanted. I wanted a Cartier, I bought one. I wanted a Black Bay 54, I bought one. I wanted a Grand Seiko, I bought one. And if I've ever listened to people's opinions, I would have never ended up buying these watches. So guys, sometimes it's better to follow your gut feeling, to do your research and to follow and discover what you really want. I guarantee you'll be much happier. The SBGA413 or the Shunbun is part of the Grand Seiko heritage models. The series was initially launched on a limited run for the States in 2019, but without too much success. And that happened because there was no clear consumption base for colored watches. However, the same series was launched in 2022, this time being available worldwide, but also catching the ideal timing, succeeding to capitalize on the colored dials trend launched by Rolex once with the Oyster Perpetuals, the Patek Tiffany or the Omega Aquaterras. And this time, what do you know, once with the launch of the Barbie movie, the model was ignited even more with its motif, but also the pink color theme. And I am fully aware that pink might not be considered a first color option for some, but for me it's quite strange. Being an artist, I always embrace colors just because I think colors add character and tell something about a person. I personally appreciate people that have the inspiration and the courage to wear with confidence and bring colors into their wardrobe, as long as they are applied with taste. And I also think men have long passed the barrier of wearing exclusively sober toned clothes just to highlight seriosity or masculinity. And getting back to our topic, this is a heritage model, precisely a modernized version with a faceted case without a bezel, which is inspired from the Grand Seiko 62GS. None other than the first Grand Seiko with an automatic calendar movement ever produced by the brand. The case can be distinguished through the expanded lugs with an arched profile, faceted with severe chamfers and chopped ends of the lugs, all attributes of Tanaka's design. Through his help, the brand created a recognizable design language which inspired as well the sister brand Seiko. Now, Taro Tanaka is the father of grammar of design, a concept inspired by the art of gem cutting. So this concept implemented in Seiko's design language is based on three major principles which are pretty self-explanatory. The design should have flat surfaces and two-dimensional curves. The flat surfaces of the case, the dial and the hands should be as wide as possible, and every surface should be distortion-free and have a mirror surface, which sends us to their impressive Zaratsu polishing technique. Of course, the impeccable popular finishing proposed by the brand from the land of the rising sun doesn't mean that much in their impressive culture, because Zaratsu is a phonetical interpretation of a German polishing machine acquired by the brand in the 50s named Zalaz, which is pronounced in German as Zaratsu. Right from the start, I have to tell you that I bought a Grand Seiko not for the accuracy part, but for the dial and the case finishing. Because I knew this watch has a lot of potential, I borrowed a Canon Redline macro lens which works natively with my Canon EOS R7 just to make the best of the style. Interesting to know, I can consider myself a guy who's seen quite a lot of high horology watches throughout my YouTube journey, and the feedback is, this Grand Seiko, my friends, is one of the most refined and perfected dial I've ever seen. Concluding that a $6,000 Grand Seiko can beat a high horology piece from the detailing perspective, so yeah, we can call it a shortcut. The watch surprisingly has no bezel. The design of the 62GS was crafted to offer higher legibility thanks to the tall box acrylic glass, allowing the light to enter from every angle. So the case stops at the lugs level, reissued as well today with a spectacular sapphire box crystal without any outer bezel. This spectacular dial, which I consider it one of the best dials ever offered by the brand, unveils a pastel of shapes with different angles and textures, which translated offers the same texture of oil or acrylic paints on canvas. The theme of the collection is part of the Japanese seasonal calendar. The pink dial, or this particular model, represents one of the 4 seasons, precisely the spring, themed by the cherry blossom petals scattered by the wind which covers the surface of a river. So the dial represents the motif of the petals which slides easily taken by the river stream. When angled, we can spot how the pattern changes its rhythm and the engraved parts are moving the light and the shadow towards the embossed ones. In reality, this model has a pale pink dial, so you have to match it with a pink shirt just to amplify the color through association, because otherwise it can be confused with a white dressy dial. So it really depends on the color background context of the watch to read the color better. Layout-wise, we have a visual composition with diverse elements that simply through positioning and color can bring balance and taste into a dial. As purpose and because of the color, this can transform into a dress watch, as I said, but also into a practical everyday watch. After all, this is a precise and robust watch with 100 meters flow resistance and a screw-down crown featured into a robust case. The only downside here being the total lack of lume, which feels to be a signature for the Grand Seiko brand. In terms of legibility, we've established that the dial has a beautiful pale pink color. However, in strong light, this can provide legibility problems because the desaturated pink dial absorbs the markers and the hands, creating not only a potentially boring dress watch, but also a hard-to-read layout. But hey, who buys this watch to check the hour? Interesting to know, the faded pink color has a warm hue and sometimes it can be perceived as a salmon color, helped by the Grand Seiko logo coated in a gold tone. In my view, the logo is a very inspired color to be added on the dial, and I think it complements the dial and the markers, making it less boring. And as well as they do not need any description or introduction, we can simply spot the perfection of the highly polished markers with a perfect vertical pattern, but also the uber sharp finishing on the side of the hands, complemented by a vertical brush on the front facet. Out of the 4 seasons collection, this model alongside the grey winter version are more expensive because they have a spring drive movement but also titanium cases, where the other 2 seasons have automatic movements with stainless steel cases. So the 9R65 is not one of the brand's newest creations with 5 days power reserve or regulated in 5 positions. But what I like the most, despite the lack of lume, it is the ideal watch to sleep with because the movement does not create vibrations, so the pillow will not amplify the sound. I don't know if someone ever mentioned this on YouTube. When worn, the design of the case provides a masculine feeling on the wrist because of the toe lugs and the oversized crown. The geometry of the case is closing very well the volume on the wrist surface. And that is why I see this model more like a GADA watch rather than a slider under a cuff as a dress watch. Everything described complemented by a well-finished bracelet with not so many adjustable points. But once the watch is adjusted properly on the wrist, thanks to the subtle presence provided by the reduced weight, you will forget you have a watch on the wrist. That comfortable and lightweight it is. So this, my friends, was my Grand Seiko story. A lot of drama, a lot of analytical thinking, a lot of decision making in order to get my hands on my first Grand Seiko. But hey, without effort, there is no satisfaction. And I'm really curious to know, what do you think about this model? Is this the perfect pink for you? Please let me know in the comments section. And as usual, if you're new around, please consider subscribing for future episodes. Thank you very much. Thanks for watching, and until next time. Be brave, Bob. Stay safe.